Nothing was recorded. This is actually me making a wrap-up. It's about time. I am combining April and May because this is not gonna be a really long list. I'm trying, okay? I'm also gonna mention how many books I read each month, counting the ones that I may have read for class, but I'm not gonna mention them here just because I usually don't rate these books. Like, there's only one exception for one of these months, but other than that, I just feel like whenever I read for class, since I read it a bit differently than I would if I had picked it up myself, I usually don't read these because I feel like it's unfair and it wouldn't be an impartial rating. Like, there would be a lot that would affect my reading since I'm not really just reading it for enjoyment. So I'm gonna mention them briefly and then we're gonna get into the ones that I picked up for myself. I read 7 books total in April. 6 of them were physical books and 1 was an ebook. For class, I read The Moonstone, Ducks, True Love, and one final book that's actually kind of in the middle of being a book for class and one that I would have picked up on my own. That is Mexican Gothic, which is why we're gonna start talking briefly about it. I had never read a Sylvia Moreno Garcia book before, but I did have one on my list, though it wasn't this one. It was, I think, her fantasy or sci-fi book. But this book, I filmed this whole video, 45 minutes of it, and that shot you saw was when my phone decided that the storage was full and it stopped recording. But as I filmed with my back camera, I had no clue. Nothing was recorded. I think I had said that we were gonna talk about Sylvia Moreno Garcia's Mexican Gothic, so I'll do that briefly. I basically said that this is so painful. If you're into Gothic genre as a whole, and if you think that you can't handle horror, but that's what's been holding you back from reading this book, I would say go for it, because as someone who can't handle horror, I read it and I thought it was fine. Obviously, there was some gory parts and some parts that I had to stop and take a second and look away and then keep reading, but overall, I think her writing was amazing. I really enjoyed that this book was my first Sylvia Moreno Garcia book, and I really like her writing and the pacing of the story. This is basically about Noemi, who gets a letter from her cousin that doesn't really sound like her cousin, and she's staying at the Doyle mansion with who was supposed to be her fiance. But Noemi, she thinks that something's off, so she's actually also sent by her father to go to this mansion and figure out what's happening with her cousin. Once she gets there, some really weird things are going on, and I will never look at mushrooms the same way again. If you like the Gothic genre and you'd like to read something by a Mexican-Canadian author, or you have been thinking about reading Sylvia Moreno Garcia, I would recommend to start with this book. I gave it 4 stars if I'm not wrong. The next book I read was The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. And this one was just a cute, lighthearted, fast read. I don't know what it was about it that couldn't let me enjoy it fully. If you like kind of that feeling of magic and also found family, I think this is the book for you. Found family is like a really strong part of the book, but it basically follows the main character, who's an actual witch, but she pretends to be a witch on social media, and that's like a very contradicting yet effective way to let the secret out without really letting it out. And I think it's clever, so it was just a funny, lighthearted, witty story. But definitely if you like found family and kind of like that feeling of magic or enchantment, read this book. I gave it a 3.5. I wish you could have seen me the first time I talked about this because I was so excited. Next up, I read what is probably now one of my favorite young adult books, and that is Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. I had read Get a Life, Chloe Brown by her, but I don't know that I enjoyed that as much as I did this one, even though I really liked that one too. But now I want to pick up the other two books, and I kind of wish she had more young adult books because I really enjoyed this story. Bradley and Celine are basically, they were friends, but they're no longer friends, they're no longer talking, and they're now kind of rivals. This book is An Academic Rivals to Lovers. I just think it was done amazing. I love academic rivals to lovers, but I am always a bit nervous of the young adult books I'm reading because now that I'm reading both adult and young adult, I don't know why I get a bit nervous about the young adult books maybe not hitting, or me not liking them as much and it not being something from the book, but like more of like a me problem. So I was really surprised with this book. This is genuinely, I think, one of the best young adult books I've read. I absolutely loved it. When I tell you I was laughing out loud because of this book, I'm not kidding. I had to contain myself because I was in like a public space and it wasn't really quiet, but it also wasn't super loud, and there was someone in front of me and I didn't really want them to think that I was insane, because people tend to do that when you react in any way, shape, or form to a book you're reading. But overall, I really loved this. Once they start spending more time together, you can really tell how much they care for each other and how much they know each other. This has also representation for OCD, which I can't speak on its accuracy, but a lot of the thoughts that Bradley had reminded me a lot of what anxiety looks like a little. So there was that. I liked the secondary characters, I liked the plot, I liked the characters. That is something that also scares me a little now in young adult books, because there's some that I've read where I'm like, okay, that feels like a little too childish for a teenager. Their banter was great. Whenever there was banter or arguments, it didn't feel annoying or childish. It was genuinely just funny and lighthearted, and it made me laugh or it made me smile, and I just loved this book. I think everyone who reads young adult books should give this a go because I genuinely love this. I ended up giving it a 4.5. I don't know what it was. I think it was something at the end that prevented me from giving it a 5-star, but I still think about these characters to this day. I loved this book. I annotated a lot. I don't know if you can tell, but I really like this, so pick this up if you haven't. Next up, I read King of Pride by Anna Huang. Let me just show you something. You see this and you're like, okay, and then you see this. 2 post-its in 1 page. Not exactly necessary, maybe a bit of a waste, but you know, we're just gonna go with it. And then you get to this. What is this? It was ridiculous at this point. I might as well have highlighted the entire page, or the entire 2 pages. I was basically freaking out as I read. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 quotes. 6 quotes or moments that I would consider memorable for this book in just 2 pages. I love Anna Huang's writing. I've never had trouble with it. I have no issue with the pacing of the stories, and I agree that this was a little unexpected because this couple is different from her other ones in that they were genuinely so wholesome and so cute together. I think there were some people that were disappointed in the spice in this book, but I think it's because they had so many more cute moments that it was just adorable to see. And Kai and Isabella complement each other so well. She makes him step out of his comfort zone a little, and then he helps her see aspects of herself that she doesn't believe or that she really can't see. I love this couple, and I'm already so excited for the next book. Like, I think that's also part of it. From the beginning I was super excited, and I think it's because these characters were introduced to in the previous book, and that's happening with the next one, and I'm already so invested in Dominic and Alessandra's story. I'm not kidding. I'm even invested in possibly the next book and who may potentially be the main character, because there's someone that could potentially be one of her main characters that is from Colombia. It was actually mentioned in the book and it got me so excited, and now I can't wait because the possibility of having a main character written by Anna Huang that's from the same country, maybe same city that I am from, you couldn't shut me up. I ended up giving this a 4.5. I really loved their dynamic. I loved the relationship. I just think it was so wholesome. I think that's the word that describes their relationship, wholesome. For people who are disappointed, I am a firm believer that well-written tension can be equally as good or even better, and I think this book showed that, so I can't wait for the next in the series. That was all I read in April, and now we're on to May. I only read 4 books total in May. I'm gonna begin with a book I read for class, and I don't know if this counts as physically, but I'll count it. It is The Voyage of the Dawn Treader by C.S. Lewis, which is one of the books in the Narnia Chronicles. This is actually the only book I've read about Narnia, and it's technically not about Narnia, but I thought it was really cool. I should have started with this. I read 4 books total in May. 1 was physical, 2 were on Kindle, and the other one was that one. The first book I read in May was Tattered by Devney Perry. I actually was a little disappointed. I just think that it's because of the expectations I had coming from her Eden series. I just wanted to see what her other books felt like, but I don't think this was for me. I don't know what it was, but it kept me from being fully invested in the story. I liked the small town romance. I liked the dynamic between the main character and her kid. That's something that I actually really enjoyed from the book, but I don't know what it was about it. I ended up giving it a 3.5 because I still enjoyed it and I read it pretty quickly. Like, I wanted to keep reading. I just kept scrolling on my Kindle. But I think maybe if you like small town romance and single parent, this could be the book for you. The next book I read, I'm not gonna say much about because I just did a whole reading vlog on it. Kind of. I tried. And that was Happy Place by Emily Henry. I gave this one 5 stars. I just enjoyed so many things about this book. Again, I just wanted to have the book and hug it to my chest. There was so many things that were relatable to me and that made me think a lot about stuff from my own life, and that made me relate to the characters as well. Something I did say in my vlog is that I really liked the talk that there was about friendship and grief in this book. So I think if you're looking for something that addresses not only the good but also the bad or the challenges that come with friendships and maybe challenges that arise because of distance and stuff like that, I think you should give that a go. I really love that book. I'm not gonna say much on it because you already have that on my vlog, so if you haven't watched that, go watch it and you can get more of my thoughts on it. I still don't think it tops Book Lovers though. I don't know what it was about that book, but it had everything for me. And last but not least, this is the last book I read in May, Things I Never Got Over by Lucy Score. It's the only book I read physically, and it was actually a reread. I didn't remember anything about this book for some reason. I didn't even remember that she was a runaway bride, and it's on the back of the book in the bigger font. I didn't remember the characters who are going to be the main characters in the second one. I was like, who is that when they announced the story? I didn't remember. And I could understand why, so that's why I decided to reread and then go into the second book, which will be in one of my next videos potentially, so stay tuned for that. I enjoyed it. I get that it does have a Wattpad-ish kind of writing, but I still liked it. Unlike other books, for some reason, I don't know what it was about this one, but I was able to move on from it. Like, it didn't hinder my reading experience to the point where I was so taken away from the story that I just couldn't get over it. Nothing like that. I could get past it. I will say the one thing I remembered was the third act conflict pissing me off because it was really just the main character acting immaturely, but I was able to get past it. I really enjoyed it overall. I don't think I have to say much about this one because you either have read it or you have decided that you won't read it. If you have never seen it, small town romance, kind of single parent trope. It's kind of like a Grumpy Sunshine, I would say. So if you like that, maybe check it out. That is it for my April and May wrap up. Stay tuned for more videos because I have already ideas brewing up. I might start on them already this week and I cannot wait. If you liked this video, maybe subscribe to my channel or come on occasionally to see what I've been doing with my Bookish content. I really hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you in my next one.